Good morning. I believe this is the 2021st visit to this church. Yeah, I was here before the big church was built. I've been a close friend of both Dr. Erlene and her dear husband, and I'm a friend to all of you. Now, I have specialized all these years in the science and the art of giving spiritual treatment, affirmative prayer. Let us then be still and know. I will give it in the first person so that it will become yours. There is one mind, one God, one life, one truth, one love, one beauty. And I am the inlet and the outlet of all that God is. My consciousness, my knowing, is centered in right ideas, in love, in truth, in the goodness of life. Therefore, my health is spiritual, and my prosperity is certain. For this is the truth of the living God, and the truth of myself in that God. So my eyes are now open, and I see the truth. I'm speaking this morning on you are unfinished business because you are. You know, you've been around many times. Any mother looking at a brand new baby just born within an hour is looking at an old man or an old woman. Did you hear me? Babies are born old. Yes. I'm sure that my mother, Harriet, lovely lady, looked at me and said, "Did I give birth to that?" The doctor said, "You just wait. In about 4 hours, it'll be a beautiful little baby." We were born as unfinished business. We live as unfinished business. We die. Because you and I are a continuity. We don't start and stop. We are. We always shall be, always have been. You say, "Well, that's very nice, but I don't remember anything previous." Thank God you don't. There's so much of my present life I'd like to forget. I don't know what's back there. I'm glad I went through it because here I am now. I also feel when I talk very often to a same group of people, I often feel that you and I have been drawn together for a reason. I believe that every clergyman feels this way. But it is more than a Sunday morning talk. It is a bringing together in a unified consciousness or mind of those who belong together to get a certain idea. Therefore, you will get an idea here this morning. Now, why are you unfinished business? Because nobody is ever finished. In our classes in the science of mind, and this will be equally true in any school, university, or anything else, we have the same perennial people taking every class every year, and they don't look much different at the end. I've taught these classes, that's how I know. But we do get results. We get people that do look different, feel different, act different. But not all. Now, the perennial seeker for diplomas. When I was self-impressed by my own diplomas, I had them all over my office wall. Oh, they looked so impressive. And a friend came, well, I won't say a friend, a student came in, sat down and looked. I knew that he was itching to get up and read them. And he said, he said, "You are still trying to impress yourself, aren't you?" That day they went down and never went up again. He was right. I was in that period where I needed self-assurance. I needed to feel that I was a worthwhile individual, we'll call it that, instead of just quietly saying, Barker, who are you trying to fool? You either are or you aren't, and those pieces of paper won't do it. And I took them down. I kept them. But for the moment there, I had my glory. You see, there comes a time when I knew my business would never be finished. That I was eternally exploring that which I really am. Not the world. That's for the other people. See, Jesus said, I am not of this world. Yes. So therefore my soldiers will not fight. Meaning, he was not of this world that required constant backing up, constant argument, constant, again, reassurance. And so I take that rather seriously. Am I of the world that I read on the front page of the newspaper? Or am I of this inner world, which is what I really am and you really are? And there I'm dealing with something that will never be complete. It will always be unfolding, always expanding, always becoming. Which is what your knowledge of God is, if you make a sincere study of it. People say, well, Dr. Barker, you must know a lot about God. The more I know intellectually, the less I know spiritually. And that's where the old order has made its mistake. It knows intellectually everything that God ought to be or is to them. But inwardly, you have to know something for yourself. That is why we stress individualization. That you are the individualized action of all that life is, all that mind is, all that love is, all that anything. You are it. By right of birth? No. By right of being? Yes. By right of being. Just because you are. Just because I am. Well, isn't it because of your father and mother? No, and they were dear people. They did their best, this little brat. I was. And I went through that awful stage of asking questions. My mother and father, I think, said, oh, Lord, when will this child go past the questioning period? I finally got through. But I kept on inside asking my own questions. Because I know that I am unfinished and never will be finished. And that's the nice thing. Can I be perfect? I don't know. The great teacher said, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's a pretty great axiom. I do not think it's possible. I don't even think it was possible for him. But it's there. It's there as a challenge. There's a challenge. And without it, I probably would, not I, but I'm probably millions of people would never have bothered to try. I can be constantly improving. And I thank God. Now, I hope you are on a pathway wherein, now I'm not talking about giving up everything you like. Yes. I've had the people sit in my office and tell me, well, Dr. Barker, so many years ago I gave up drinking. Oh, fine. 2 years later I gave up smoking. Well, that's good. That'll please the health department. Yeah. And you know, I'm eating less red meat than I used to. Oh, you're on that way, are you? Oh. And I look them straight in the eye and I say, when are you going to give up sex? Don't delay me any longer. Because I know that they are using external methods to be better instead of using internal methods to be better. Yes. Now, is there anything wrong with the things that this man or woman did? No. It was We don't sit in judgment. Isn't it nice to be in a church that's not the least bit interested in your sins? Yeah. Yeah. We can't promise you hell or heaven. We can only say you are going to be forever aware, awakened, know yourself. You will. And you're on an endless pathway of self-discovery. Now, to some people, they shake their heads and say, oh, that's horrible. They say, oh, I'd like at least 100 years of rest. You would be so bored on the next area of life without getting busy. No. Now, here today, because I intend to be around here quite a while, here today, what am I doing? Or you're doing? How much more can I believe about the good that I have innate in me and should bring out? I told you before I have this mirror technique and I use it. I used it this morning. It's easy because every man has to shave and every woman has to put on makeup. And I stand there and say, Barker, or Raymond, I like my own name. Raymond, you are wonderful. Now, being a man standing there, I just got out of the shower and I only have a pair of shorts on. You're wonderful. I don't mean my body. Although for my age, it's very good, in case you're interested. I look at myself in the mirror as I'm shaving. I use electric razors. And I say, you're wonderful. You are tremendous. You're a spiritual gift to the human race. Now, most people say, what on earth about this man doing? He ought to be put away. You're not supposed to speak nicely of yourself. That's what your grandmother always taught you. So usually a man will stand in front of his mirror and say, oh, another day. Huh. Well, I hope I get through it. All right. Hope I make some more money. The boy, on 5 o'clock comes, I'll be tired. And they say that right into the mirror at 8 o'clock in the morning. They've got it all scheduled. They know how tired they're going to be at 5 o'clock. Do you? I don't. No. I do not project trouble ahead of me. And I mean it. I have watched my mind work. So, if I think there's going to be a trouble spot during the day, I stop long enough to say, go. Thou art not of me. I am intelligence, love, order. Yes. A few years ago, in the Glendale, California Church of Religious Science, Adela Rogers St. John was speaking. Many of you old timers can remember Adela. She always did put her hands through her hair all the time. I mean, she looked pretty bad anyway. But she was a great person. And anyway, so at the end of the Glendale church service, Adela, as you know, she's quite, you don't say no to Adela. She said, now, I believe at this time, as we leave the church, we sing, let there be peace on earth, and I want nothing of it. No. I want you people to sing, let there be love on earth. Well, I'm in a campaign to get that thing changed in every church. She said, you know, children do not understand. And she said, most adults don't understand peace as peace, because there's never been a time in the history of civilization there wasn't a war somewhere. But love, everyone can understand. It's interesting. Let there be love on earth, and let it begin with you. Anyway, I'm selling an idea. Now to come back. The self-awareness expanding or the rock. I sometimes sit down, just say to myself, all alone, all right, what am I? And I think quiet. And I begin to say, wait a minute, what am I? Because my body's the least of what I am. I am consciousness. That's too easy to say and not know what you're saying. I am spirit. It's another word that people don't know really what it means. I am intelligence. That's a little better. I get to know that. I am love. Yes, I love a great many people. And thank God I'm loved by a great many people. Yes, I can understand that. And I just sit quiet and think, what am I? And then another nasty when you get to my age. I sit quietly, not all together. 3 minutes will do it enough for me. Then another day I'll sit down and say, well, Raymond, I think you're a little too self-satisfied. Let's do something about it. What's the next challenge? Raymond, where are you going? Oh. And I do some serious mental work on this thing. Just question. Because when you are totally self-sufficient, you don't know anything. There are too many people that know too much. They have not changed the world. Too much. Yes. Intellectualism will never change the world for the better. And we've proven it a million times. That's why Jesus said, oh, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Oh my God. These were the intellectuals of the day. They're trying to change the world by uttering prayers in the corners, letting everybody know how holy they are, and they're not changing the world at all. They make it worse. I'm not quoting Jesus now. Yeah. Because intellectualism does not save the world. That's why all religious, I call founders, pioneers, have been simple but determined people. I'm thinking of John Wesley. I'm thinking of the man that founded the Quaker movement. Not with argument, but with peace. I'm thinking of many of them. Then I'm thinking of Ernest Holmes. Now, Ernest Holmes started out teaching this, and luckily, he had something. He had a gift of gab. Ernest could talk as I can on any subject at any time for as long as you want me to. That was Ernest. In fact, his wife, in his great big theater in Los Angeles, he had a most beautiful wife whom he adored. And once in a while on Sunday morning, she'd look at her watch and stand right up. Ernest, it's time to stop. And he'd say, yes, dear, I guess it is, isn't it? With that, he'd stop. That was his humanity. That was her wisdom. That's why who else would have a great man, a great founder of something, and be able to say to him, shut up, keep quiet. Now, she was a lady, so she didn't say shut up, but he knew she meant it. Yeah. So Ernest got his crown. But Ernest, to the end that I knew, he had a certain, I'll use the term, a childlikeness. He had an open and receptive mind, right to the end. He was very innocent. He had never arrived at a point of being finished like Mrs. Eddy did. Where her work was done, she knew everything, and everybody had to agree with what she said or wrote, period. Now, for her, that was one way, but for him, no. A simplicity. A very great simplicity. Once in a while I say, all right, Raymond, you need that. You need it. It's too easy to be intellectually superior. Really? Because the meek still are going to try and run the earth. And should. Because they're the only ones that really know what the earth's all about. They know the life process. They know. But you know, I want to keep windows open. I want to keep growing. Most people say, well, now that I'm a certain age, why do I have to do any more like that? I don't know. We had a unity minister in Brooklyn, New York. I had known her many years. She's a very dear friend, the Reverend Ella Pomeroy. She came to me one day. We used to have lunch quite often. In those days, the subways were safe. And she came over to Manhattan, have lunch. She said, Raymond, I'm going to celebrate my 80th birthday next week, and you know what I'm going to do? I've already arranged it. Gone to the YWCA in Brooklyn. It's a very fine one. They have a wonderful pool. And I swim a great deal there. But now I've decided I've never learned how to dive. So my 80th birthday present to myself is I'm going to take diving lessons. And she did. And about a year later, I said to Ella, how's the diving? I do everything. It's fine. The instructor is so pleased with me, I go off the highest one and everything. Yeah. Now, that's something I don't want to do at 80, but anyway, she wanted new ideas. That's what I'm trying to say. She wanted to keep on being everything and keep an open mind and let ideas happen. So, another thing I've tried to give up are my pet biases. Take a note of this, you scribblers. You've got to get rid of your pet biases as you mature. Yes. That group of people are no good. I used to know. Oh. Today, I don't know. I've seen a lot of good come out of those people. Another group over there with another name. Oh. But so what? You know? I've learned to at least soften my bias. That for me is an overcoming. Yes. It's too easy to always be right, you know. And they're wrong over there, and they're wrong over there. They're not always wrong, but you probably are. I had to do that in my unfinished business. Bias. Yes. Because I had to believe in the essential goodness of all people. You're going to say, well, look at this and look at that and look at the other. Fine. It's all there. It's a fact world. So then they always pull this old one. Well, then you love Hitler? Never met him. The only people I know are people that I can love are people I know. Person. Oh. But you think he's wonderful? No, I didn't say that. Why'd you bring the subject up? Well, you say you love everybody. No, I don't. Neither did Jesus. The way Jesus talked about the Pharisees is unbelievable if you read the book clearly. Now, how can you see the beauty of life? I think of beauty as correct proportion. I think of beauty as a correct proportion. Now, I did not look that up in the dictionary. I do not know whether it's right or not. It's right for me. Because it's so easy to talk about the beauty of a rose. You know. Well, I like them. The beauty of a lily. Fine. I'm not talking about that kind of beauty. I'm talking about everything in right proportion. When you see that, then you have no anger about what you see. See, many of us, and I don't know, have subjective anger patterns about what I'm looking at. I don't know. I don't think I do, because I do enough spiritual mental work to clear it. See, I think the first thing you should do in the morning is to get up, have your cup of coffee, sit down in a comfortable chair, and talk to yourself about the nature of life, and the nature of God, and the nature of your own being. Use a Creative Thought magazine. I write for it. Every morning of my life, and that is the one cup of coffee, and that's all done, then I'll have my breakfast. But that comes first. And you see, if you say, well, but Dr. Barker, when I get up in the morning, I don't have time. All right, fine. No condemnation of that, but just don't expect this science to work. It'll work when you work at it in the morning. When you set your mind to behold what you want, the right proportions of your own day, whether it's the business world, whether it's the home world, social world, what? Everything in right proportions is useful, is lovely, and is of good report. Now, you're going to tell me, Dr. Barker, there isn't all this other stuff in the world? Of course there is. Do you want to go and look at it? I'm sure the section of San Diego you can find it. The problem of evil has been around since, well, if there was an Adam, and history says there wasn't, and it's been around that long. And don't blame it on the serpent, that harmless thing kept in the desert. So we always want something to blame it on, don't we? So theology created the devil and hell. That's a good reason. Now, you're not going there, unfortunately. And all your relatives who you thought went there won't be there when you go. They'll be where you're going, and you're going to have to see them all again. It'd be nice this time. You hear me? I've got a couple of barkers I've got to be nice to. Oh. I'm maturing gradually, and I think by that time, whenever that time is, I'll be ready to talk to Aunt Clara with a nice tone in my voice, a nice feeling in my heart. She was a devil. Mean! Now to come back. What are you looking at, and do you like it, and is it in right proportion? Are you interpreting it correctly? So people say, well, every morning I get up and I go to the same old routine in the same old office and the same old boss. I think, isn't that a shame? I say, if you don't like that job, why don't you quit it? Of course, then you get the other. This is no time to change jobs. I don't know whether it is or not. All the excuses to why you want to stay in your problem. Why you want to see it as you see it. Now, could this person who's going to the same old job and the same old boss, could they change consciousness? Of course they could. When I have a problem, sometimes I just sit back and say, wait a minute, do I like this? Do I want it? Does it pay me any dividends? Does it give me alibis to talk about? Oh. Or am I going to do something spiritual about this thing? What do you do with the spiritual? You change your mind and keep it changed. Whatever needs to be done to erase this pattern of my consciousness, it is now done by the action of God in my thoughts. I have said that once, I have said it 20 million. Whatever needs to be done to break this old pattern, and I name the pattern. Whatever needs to be done to break it is done now instantly in my consciousness by the action of the infinite mind, right here and right now, and I know it. And I give thanks for it, and I follow through on it. But you see, I talk to myself. So what would you do if you had a wife and 3 kids? I'd still talk to myself. That's why they invented bathrooms. So somebody will say to me, Dr. Barker, I've read the textbook 3 times, and I say, fine. But be sure if you have read the textbook 3 times that you look improved. You hear me? I'm talking about Science of Mind textbook, the basic teaching of this church. Written by Ernest Holmes, who I knew so very well. What do you see, and is it in balance, and is it in proportion? And do you see it as it really is, or do you see it with your implant on it? like these great generalities we have. Yes. I want to quote something that Paul wrote. Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, nor hath it entered into the heart of man the things that God has provided for those who love Him. Now, do you love God not as a person, but what? Do you love life? Do you love joy? Do you love great music? Do you love this? Do you like that? Eye hath not seen. You haven't seen it yet. Now, does this mean you'll see it after death? I'm not terribly interested about that. I want to see it now. And I want my ears to hear it now. The things that life has prepared for me when I appreciate life. I often say, and I did in my lovely apartment in New York or my office there, I like it here. I like it. I enjoy it. Everything's lovely. And I say that now that I moved away from all that. My present home is lovely. I like it. I like what I am right now. I don't want to be 18 again. I think growing up is the most horrible time of our life. I don't want to go back at all. Dr. Bud, would you like to be 40 again? No. Coming back. What do you see? What are you looking at in your life? I like what I see in my life. But remember, I have been doing this since I was a child. I started in the Sunday School of Unity at 6 years of age. I expected the good. Do I still? I most certainly only more. Only more. Every time I take a check to the bank, isn't this beautiful and isn't it wonderful? And I expect more money from more people. In more ways. See, in counseling the last 2 years, I had so many people that, well, I live on Social Security and that's all I've got. And I said, well, then, you better learn to adjust to it. Apparently that's all you want. You're so definite about it, you're shutting off any other good that might come to you. Then in a feeble little voice, they say, oh, but will you give me a prosperity treatment? And I would say, not with your attitude. Never get in across the wall you built. Wouldn't? Oh, Dr. Barker, you're awful. I know it, but I face facts. I heard your voice when you said, I have nothing but Social Security, and that's all I've got. Would you give me a prosperity treatment? When you get as enthusiastic about the answer to your problem as you are about the problem, you'll get the answer. I'll give you that one again. Notebooks ready, pencils. When you are as enthusiastic about the answer to your problem as you are your problem, you will get your answer. Yes. So people go to a practitioner, they sit down, ask any of the practitioners, and so the person comes in and they talk for 20 minutes about their problem. Definite, clear, precise, every detail. So the practitioner says to her, all right, I've heard your story. Now let's talk about, won't you talk about God for 5 minutes? I didn't come here for that. Oh, I thought you wanted to be helped. I do want to be helped. Talk about God for 5 minutes. Well, you're supposed to do that. No, I'm not. You've told me for 21 minutes. Exactly every detail of what the doctor said, the nurse said, and this, or the lawyer or whoever. Now talk about God for 5 minutes. Oh, that's not what I came for. See, they admitted they came for one thing to tell their story to one more ear. They let the news out. I only came to talk about my trouble. I don't really want to have my trouble solved. I said to some people, what would you talk about if you didn't have this trouble? After I listened for 20 minutes. They look at me. Now, what do you mean? What would you talk about if you didn't have this arthritis? You talk 20 minutes about it. Oh. They go away shaking their head. Now, some of them, it wakes up. Some of them wake up. And those are the greatest and grandest people on the face of the globe. They see what they are putting into the subconscious, and they don't like what they see. Change it. Put into your subconscious mind whatever you want. They'll say, oh, doctor, well, how do you do it? All right? Again, sit down in the comfortable chair, but not too comfortable. Close your eyes, shut out the world as you see it, and start making noises to yourself about yourself from a higher viewpoint. Treatment is looking out at life from a higher spiritual viewpoint. Talk about yourself that way. Yeah. I always open every treatment I give myself, and it's good for you. Raymond Barker. This treatment is for Raymond Barker. There's one God, one mind, one spirit, one truth, one intelligence, one law, one love, one greatness, one goodness, in all, through all, as all. And I am the individualization of it. Oh, Dr. Barker, I don't know all that. Well, you should. Well, then go take classes at the Church of Religious Science. Oh, but you know, they're always on Tuesday nights, and it's very difficult to get out on Tuesday nights. Then stay the way you are. The despair of most family doctors is that their patients who are dear, fine. They know them very well, will not do what they tell them to do. I've talked to many a medical doctor about it. He said, I will tell this person that these tablets will help them, but they take 3 a day. They come back to me and I say, have you taken 3 a day every day? Well, not always. When I think of it, and he realizes he's got another hopeless case. So he gives him more tablets to help the pharmaceutical profession. Yeah. Tell you a nice old story before I close. Dr. Joseph's birthday, very dear friend. I always love to brag about it because I gave him his first job in the New Thought movement. He was a pharmaceutical salesman in New York City when I knew him. And around great big things full of pills. And he went to visit the doctors in their offices in those days. By the way, he did very well. And finally, he was studying with Dr. Seal, with me. In those days, Neville in New York and so. And so he said, I want to get into this, and I'm serious. I said, fine. I was leaving my church in Rochester, New York at that time, to go and start the church in New York City. I said, Joe, why don't you take my Rochester? So it's a good start as any. He dropped his pills and began administrating the truth. And he could dish out the truth as well as any doctor could dish out pills. And he helped and went on to bigger things. You know him. I hope he was great. Because he stopped trying to sell pills and started to sell that which will take the place of pills when people really get it. Yes. Interesting. So, is there anything wrong in pills? No. Dr. Barker, do you have aspirin in your medicine chest? It's none of your damn business. So happens I do. And I'll tell you why. Because I have guests that come occasionally and stay for 2 days. And they develop headaches. I don't. I haven't used 2 aspirin in 10 years. Fine. I have no condemnation of it. Now that's why I have aspirin. Have I answered your nasty question? See, I like to come here. So I'll be back here, and now I'm going to give you a closing treatment. Again, we say, what? Open my eyes that I may see what is really there to see. I have eyes and I see. All those things which God has provided for those that love Him. I love life. So I see the good. And I correctly interpret that which I see. So I like my world, and I like the people in it, and I like what I see. Because God is everywhere evenly present in my life. I can never be out of it. I am forever immersed. Here is beauty, the right proportion, the balance. And here's the good. And here is my prosperity. All right, so it is. Thank you.